Why though? Why can't a credit-based system be a system where the credit is paid back?
Because, and this is what I explored in my book, because technology is deflationary, and what that means is prices fall to a level of the production. So let's say your calculator app. Your calculator app is free because it's a line of code. There's and in a free market, if you look on an app store, there'd be 50 calculator apps competing for your attention. There's not thousands of entrepreneurs that want to create the next calculator app. You create abundance, and it drops to free. So prices fall to the marginal utility, and that becomes free. It becomes abundant, and so that productivity gains in a free market reach the free market through price declines as we save time. And if you capture those by making prices go up, you must concentrate that wealth that should be flowing to society and saving their time in very few hands. It is theft. Mm-hmm. And that theft has to continue. And that theft has to so what would happen if the emergent complex behavior of society, which is all of us, is built on theft? Wouldn't the natural mirror reflection of the world mean that the people who had the most money would be the best at stealing and might not even know it? Let's use an example. It wouldn't charities or wouldn't nonprofits that sat on top of that, where would they get the money to run their charity, to be able to think they're helping? Wouldn't they go to the same people that were most benefiting from a system that was based on theft to help the people? And those are hard things to realize, because we make that system stronger by thinking we're doing good in that system that is based on theft. And so when you see political campaigns, and when you say who gets elected, when they're essentially telling you a lie that they can solve it through more theft, who gets elected? And you can see your entire world through that system, and you can see the emergent behavior of society would get worse and worse and worse, and it would be a mirror reflection back to us. That's what's happening to the world right now in the existing system.
Do you think this is reflected by the tension in the world?
So this is a natural. We are all connected. Mm-hmm. We are all connected. That information connects us all. That information and money. It's just the trust in money that connects us all over the world. So if you have theft in it, then we have to be disconnected. So if you looked at the biggest cities in the world with trust, essentially link together more minds, and they create more ideas, and more people move to the city because there's more going on, and those ideas actually change our world. And then if you look at the power law into smaller cities and then towns, less ideas in smaller cities, less ideas in smaller towns. And so you have these cities emerging that are Silicon Valley is a good example. Massive talent moving in, massive change the world type of technologies coming out of that area, because all of those minds link together and they form a supercomputer, linked together through trust. And those ideas spread, and we build upon those ideas, and we see, oh, that one plus that one plus that one, and this person over here, we create something incredible. Now look at what happens in giant cities without trust. Supercomputer breaks down. Mm-hmm. Right? The linking of that supercomputer is through money, that information exchange. And if you break that, supercomputer breaks. So what's happening today is that used to happen on one level. It used to happen on cities, and those cities needed to have centralized power on a grid system to be able to run the cities. Those cities need to centralize farming to be able to bring more goods to the cities, and energy and phone lines and technology, and so it fed back on itself. And what you see today is now energy through Bitcoin mining can move to the stranded energy anywhere in the world. you can do a Starlink satellite, and you can be connected into the globe anywhere in the world, and decentralize yourself from that, and still have the same access to the world. It has profound changes for that centralization of structure. So that centralization of structure, including government, to be able to make sure that whole thing worked and centralized, did provide those cities with enormous kind of growth in their economies. But now you're moving into this world where what should be happening is the prices should be declining so fast because of the productivity gains, and they should be flowing to society, but they're not. They're captured. And that capturing removes the trust, and it centralizes everything, and it keeps on centralizing into the existing system, and it gets worse and worse and worse. And that means the existing system, because it's built on theft, has to drive more and more coercion and control into the existing system. And there's no fix. So there's no way out. There's door one, let the whole thing burn down to the ground. And that because we assume money is our money, but it's actually a credit note. And so if you allow deflation to actually happen from that system, everything just fails, including all the banks, everything fails. And if you drive inflation, if you drive more theft into money, it breaks in a different way. We divide apart because our labor and our purchasing is unified. Think about your iPhone and where all those parts come from. It's connected to labor all around the world.
Okay, so how does an alternate system work if you cannot have theft?
So,
and I'm not saying that as somebody said, well, I think we should have theft.
Yeah, no,
but like, what is this alternate design system? I know it's based on Bitcoin.
Yeah, but and that's where now, if you connect that article, and maybe Danny can pull up that piece as Danny pulls up that piece. But if you look at from a design perspective, if money has to have theft, how did this whole system work over time? Bitcoin is the first thing that's that's decentralized and secure by design. It's the first time in human history that decentralization and security happened by design. And so let's go look back at human history, and it means all of our models going back through human history are based on a flawed design that would repeat throughout time. And we would be looking through the lens of history thinking, no, that's the right answer. That's the right answer. But it couldn't be perfect because our money was never perfect. It was never decentralized and secure. So what ended up happening throughout history is you would have money that would be stable for a time, and then it would be abused. And that abuse would take people through the same type of debt cycle. People would drive inflation in the currency, and you would destroy it, and you'd go to war
because of centralization,
incentives.
Yeah.
And throughout history, you saw the same thing happening. Whether it was on gold, whether it was on because gold had to be centralized, and then you'd build a credit system on top of gold, and that credit system would have incentives in it that the bank that levered gold more would make more money, so other banks would follow and lever gold more, and people would race into that for the leverage because they would make more money on the leverage. And the leverage would unwind and cause a centralizing function because the government had to make the banks whole to save the economy, and so you just moved the debt up the stack till the debt couldn't be repaid up at the top of the stack, and then you went to global war because the debt couldn't be repaid. And we're somewhere in that cycle right now in the existing market, and we go to war because our governments convince us it's not our fault, it's those people's fault over there. And it's really easy to believe there's a person or a group of people that are responsible rather than a system effect. So if you look through that lens of history, the strongest markets, because of that trust, that supercomputer, the strongest markets were always free markets. And we know through communism, that centralizing function can't see all of the ideas of a free market, so it must make choices that lower living standards for that control. That's what centralization does. That's what centralization does if anybody listening to this has ever worked in a giant company, that nothing really gets done.
Diseconomies of scale.
Exactly. It centralizes and then it turns against itself. Because you can't see all the ideas through the centralization. It's the same thing in an economy. So free markets worked better. The whole U.S. system was built on a free market that actually worked far better for a long time, and it was encoded in Bill of Rights, Constitution. But money is and same Magna Carta was a.
So correct me if I'm wrong here. You might not know this, but the kind of laissez-faire economy of post-Soviet Russia did fail, and that was more a free market economy. Why did that fail?
So in this, there are a bunch to be able to build that over time takes, like, you can't just flick a switch, especially with the global coordination of this. Essentially, you're globally coordinating labor.
Yes.
Right. All over the world for a globally connected world to work, this supercomputer to work. And that supercomputer could be hacked if you controlled the money. You could hurt other countries. So their labor isn't globally connected. You could impose your pain on other countries. And so a bunch of these are the game behind the game around money.
I'd have to go back and check this and check if I'm right, but I did try and have a look at what happened in post-Soviet Russia, and essentially there was they encouraged a laissez-faire kind of free market economy, but that actually led to concentrations of wealth because people were so poor at the time. They essentially these almost like oligarchs who had lots of money, and they were.
They picked the people who said, "Here, you can privatize this industry."
Prior to the oligarchs and privatizing the industry, it was essentially the people who just had capital. Where people were so poor and hungry, they had to sell everything they had just to be able to feed themselves, and that's all concentrations of money. Okay. There was no redistribution method.
So let's get here because again, looking through the lens of history without this innovation would lead to a whole bunch of thinking we knew the right answer in everything else, and it wouldn't be the right answer because we never had something that was decentralized and secure.
Yes.
So let's just keep going on this. So what did societies do to protect their own rights from the state getting too big and centralizing? What did they do? Magna Carta, Constitution, Bill of Rights, a whole bunch of essentially laws enshrined in doctrines that said, we the people control the state, not the other way around. And where that happened, though, because now you had more ideas competing, those were the strongest economies. And they grew the fastest because you had more ideas. But what ends up happening over time is because money is more powerful than laws, and as you make more money or as you drive more money, then the laws are changed for more money. And if you have inflation built into your system, then the wealthy get wealthier and wealthier and wealthier instead of prices falling. You actually create this massive monopoly power that changes laws to favor themselves. It's not a capitalist system. We don't know what a capitalist system is based on that. The word is misused because if money has a theft in it, that will happen. And because money is more powerful, the laws get changed for the money.
So if we've never had a capitalist system, are we essentially theorizing what a capitalist system will do? And that is another test.
All of these naming conventions for what democracy is a naming convention. So ask yourself, these are hard things to actually face because they force us down to a layer that we have to break apart what we believed all the time was true. But let's use.
But this is a good thing to do, Jeff. Like I always want to do this. I want to question this. Because I don't want to just sit there and say, oh well, Bitcoin fixes everything. So therefore, once we get a hyper Bitcoinization, everything's going to be great. And
that's why this is important. That's why these are really important questions. By the way, I believe it does, but how it does and why I understand that belief would be hard to get to for people is because they're bringing the baggage from their existing system into the new system.
But if we can do that, we should drive higher, faster adoption of Bitcoin, which means we should get to the point where these problems are fixed sooner.
Yeah.
So there's an incentive structure to be able to communicate why this is a better system to people.
It's what you do on your show, and many others do, by bringing in different minds and looking at it. But what I would say is, what's happening is people are they're taking their view of this new system, which is a fractal pattern from their view of the existing system and what they want the new system to be, rather than intuiting what this new system will be with different incentives and different behavior. So, and that creates a lot of noise around the new system. It creates a lot of, especially if you that's why I used if you had misinformation expanding at an exponential rate in money, and everybody was looking through that misinformation, you'd expect that essentially vortex of people yelling at each other, you'd expect it to get way worse.
So you're saying that you believe it fixes it.
Yeah.
Whereas I'm in a position where I'm thinking, I can see a bunch of stuff I think it fixes, but I'm a bit unsure on how we get there, how we communicate it, what the path is, what happens during that journey.
Yeah.
And we're going to be sacrificing a lot to go on this journey. It's still a theory. There's no proven model where a decentralized currency makes the world a net better place. We just don't know. So you're there. How did you get there?
So, and what you just asked in a theory, or and I think it's fair to say, it presupposes that the existing system will work, right? It presupposes that. So I would first say, what alternative is there? And find me a better alternative.
So one, carry on as we are, which is clearly very broken.
Yeah,
we know that.
We require theft and money.
Yeah.
That theft and money will divide us all, and that theft and money will take us likely to war and maybe the end of human species as a result of that theft and money. That's actually where we are. Mm-hmm. Or it will concentrate all control in very few super overlords. And the rest of us, it'll look like modern day slavery. It'll look like China's social credit system on steroids. And it'll just keep going there because you've allowed theft and money to exponentially increase prices. You're trying to make prices go up forever because of theft and money, when the natural rate of technology should be benefiting all of us. Prices should fall and our time should be saved.